Very good morning, everyone. Online and also in person at the University of Queensland. All distinguished guests in front of us and also online as well, waiting for their sessions. Yes. I'm not on mute, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. So, and also the representatives from the Australian and Japan governments, welcome. Thank you. And the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and the Australian Japan Foundation, expert panelists, industry experts, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Koh. I'm a professor and chair and director of UQ Cybersecurity, as well as the deputy head of school external engagement at the School of ITEE. So first I want to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we are standing on today. We pay respect to the elders, past, present and emerging, who continue cultural and spiritual connections to the country. It is my pleasure to be your MC today, and we'll be having two sessions today and on the 15th of December. Today's session is quite exciting. It's great, and we really appreciate DFAT for funding this event. It is a bilateral cybersecurity focused roundtable at two locations at the University of Queensland and on Zoom. Now, for those online, you would have noticed that Zoom looks a bit different for you because we would have a translation interpretation button near the bottom right corner of the Zoom interface, which you can choose between the English and the Japanese language simultaneous translation. So please do choose the language of your choice and enjoy the session. Before I begin, I want to go through a few housekeeping details. In the event of an emergency such as a fire alarm or any other emergencies, please proceed calmly to the you will see the Staff House Road out there. Just out and turn left or turn right and go around the corridor to the open space areas. Our team will be able to guide you as well. Bathrooms are located at the end of the corridor. When you exit the room, you turn right all the way to the staircase. You'll be able to see it. Lunch will be provided after session 1, and this includes there'll be a break for lunch as well for the online participants. Now, today's event will focus on the promoting of the cybersecurity sector diversity and also the bilateral interdisciplinary research. So interdisciplinary research is actually something that is close to our heart at UQ, my team at UQ Cyber. We are made up of about 50 plus academics. From 5 faculties, including 6 schools, 1 institute, 1 center, and UQ's very own AustCyber, which is the oldest, second oldest computer emergency response team in the world, founded in 1992. Our team covers expertise ranging from computer science to criminology, management, law, economics, policy, and even medicine. Our research is also supported by world-leading facilities, which includes the Security Operations Center, Cyber War Room, Device Testing Lab with its Faraday's cage, and also an Industry 4.0 Energy Test Lab. So with these facilities, and with this team, we are hoping to build the next generation of leaders in cybersecurity. At UQ Cyber, we also seek to increase diversity in this leadership for the future generations of cybersecurity careers. So we increase diversity through scholarships and programs, such as the Girls Do Cyber event with Australian Signals Directorate, aimed at high school students interested in any of the STEM and cyber careers. And of course, the DFAT funded events such as this. So we have an exciting lineup of talks today. Panel 1 will be talking about national security and cyber policies for enhancing regional cybersecurity capabilities. We'll talk about some of the emerging challenges and the key issues from the perspective of the countries, and we'll have an open chat about the region. Then with Brisbane hosting the 2032 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, our second session will cover and learn lessons from our Japanese colleagues who have organized and prevented cybercrime attacks on the Tokyo Olympics. It will be an interesting session where we learn from the experience and we can share our common experiences running mega events. The second half of the workshop will then be continued on 15th of December, covering diverse workforce in cybersecurity and also interdisciplinary cybersecurity education, learning from different models across Japan and Australia, such as Australia's capstone program and the Japan model of teaching the technical skills at a very deep level as well. So I want to extend my sincere appreciation to our panelists from UQ, Code Blue, Japan, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, as well as the industry, for agreeing to share their valuable insights today. I also wish to acknowledge Kana Shinoda and her team at Blue Inc. Thank you. And also our Executive Dean, Professor Vicky Chen, our Head of School of ITEE, Professor Michael Brunick, our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Global Engagement, Mr. Rongyu Lee, Ms. Kana Smith, Mr. TJ Trent, Megan, who's taking pictures for us as well, thank you. And also Laura and the strong support from DFAT, and of course the Japanese consulate in Brisbane, and everyone who has made this all possible. Without further ado, please put our hands together to welcome Mr. Rongyu Lee, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Global Engagement of UQ, to give his opening address. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Professor Ko. My name is Rongyu Lee. I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice President Global Engagement at the University of Queensland. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands where UQ stands, and pay respect to elders, past, present, and emerging. I extend my sincere appreciation to our panelists across UQ, Blue Inc., the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Japanese government officials, the Indonesian Cybersecurity Agency, as well as industry, for agreeing to share their valuable insights today. I would like to acknowledge our colleagues, students, and friends joining us from around the world as well. We are excited to have this opportunity to collaborate with our colleagues at Blue Inc. on such a critical area for both of our countries. I'm sure you will all agree that today we can expect robust discussion. The breadth and depth of our guests' experience is truly impressive. We are especially fortunate to have a panel of global cybersecurity experts. There is no room for complacency when it comes to cyber attacks. Malicious cyber activity against the national and economic interests of Australia and our allies is increasing in frequency, scale, and sophistication. The pandemic has only accelerated this threat, with many of us relying on technology in ways we have never done before. As a global university, UQ's mission is to address global cyber security challenges and educate top cybersecurity leaders. We are the first organization in Australia to adopt the internationally recognized cybersecurity education framework, NICE framework, which is the current gold standard around the world for cybersecurity education and job alignment. Together with a group of experts from around the world, Blue Inc. and UQ Cyber are respectively organizing the Asian and Australasian regional qualifiers of the inaugural International Cybersecurity Challenge in 2022. The vision of the challenge is to be the World Cup for cybersecurity competitions, with aims to increase skill sets and improve international collaboration in cybersecurity training. To prepare for this challenge, UQ is constructing cyber war rooms and setting up a capture the flag competition environment for our students to learn about current and emerging cybersecurity challenges. UQ has partnered with industry experts to develop the most comprehensive Master of Cybersecurity program in Australia. Japan recognizes this, and we are working with the National Police Agency to send the police agency staff to our Master of Cybersecurity program for training. We welcome this opportunity to develop a close partnership with Japan to accelerate cybersecurity expertise in our region. UQ is also passionate about attracting a diverse cohort into our cybersecurity programs to meet this growing demand. In 2020, we partnered with HP Australia to launch our HP Women in Cybersecurity Scholarship. Through scholarships like these, UQ is creating highly skilled professionals across all backgrounds who can meet the security challenges of the future. I hope today is a valuable opportunity to strengthen research and industry collaboration between our two countries to overcome the challenges we both face in this critical area. I'm excited to have your insights today on how we can work together to create a cyber secure future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We now invite Professor Vicky Chen to give us a welcome address. Professor Chen.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, academics, researchers, and from UQ and Blue Incorporated. I'm Professor Vicky Chen. I'm the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Architecture, and Information Technology. And even though that we're all video conferencing from various locations around the world, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands UQ stands. And we pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging who continue cultural and spiritual connection to country. We recognize important roles that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to play within our community and their valuable contribution to Australia and global society. Now, I'd first like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously helped us to make this event come together. It's a fantastic effort. Specifically, I want to give thanks to the Australian government for supporting this opportunity, the Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade, Japan Foundation for funding and support, Ms. Masuda, Consulate General of Japan for their engagement, the delivery team, the guest panelists for sharing their wealth of knowledge and their respective expertise, and special thanks for Ryan Coe and Kanat Sid and the UQ Cyber team, who's really worked hard over the last 5 months to put this together. And special thanks, of course, to our partners, Blue Incorporated, led by Ms. Kanat Shinoda, who obviously couldn't have done it without their efforts. Now, our faculty is really delighted to be able to host the DFAT funded event at UQ and via online for our Japanese participants. We appreciate the opportunities to contribute towards important government initiatives that strengthen bilateral relationships with Australia and Japan, and through the knowledge sharing and education efforts. Our university and faculty has deep connections to Japan. Recently, we played a really active role in the inaugural UQ Japan Day, which explored existing collaborations and new opportunities with a focus on engineering and science fields, strengthening UQ's engagement with Japan. And I'm happy to see the momentum build on this with today's DFAT event with the Australia-Japan Foundation. Now, UQ Cyber is one of our faculty's flagship initiatives, and our graduates in cybersecurity are in great demand worldwide. UQ Cyber, interdisciplinary group of academics, research across various disciplines focused on game-changing research that addresses some of the biggest cybersecurity challenges around the world with our partner organizations. And this event will be held over 2 days, today and December 15th, with 4 sessions covering topics on national cyber policies, cybersecurity of the Tokyo Summer Olympics and Paralympics, diversity in cybersecurity sector, and approaches to cyber education across both Japan and Australia. And clearly that's extremely important for us. Now, these topics are relevant not only for researchers and policymakers, but also for our industry partners. And obviously, as everybody is aware, impacts on all aspects of our daily lives. For example, cyber policy around Australia, Japan, and Indonesia, all critical nations across the Indo-Pacific region, play an important role in preserving our security, stability, and economy of the region. And with Brisbane playing as host to the 2032 Olympics, Paralympics, we're particularly delighted to learn from the experiences of our colleagues, the Japanese team who prevented cyber crimes, ensured the games ran smoothly. And it's a great accomplishment. Now, diversity is a very important part of our programs. Now, UQ Cyber runs, as Ryan mentioned, the Girls Do Cyber program with Life Journey and the Australian Signals Director to inspire high school girls to our cyber career. And this year, UQ Cyber Squad girls came in second place in the Down Under CTF 2021 with over 1,500 teams competing. This is Australia's biggest capture the flag cybersecurity competition targeted at Australia secondary and tertiary students. In our faculty, we have a particular initiative led by the Women in Engineering program, which aims to inspire women to consider rewarding careers in engineering. And this program educates female high school students, teachers, and parents about the pathways for engineering and also provide them with support and industry connection for current students. For example, this incoming engineering class is close to 27% women entering our program. So we're very proud of achieving that benchmark. We're proud to also contribute our expertise to cybersecurity in partnership with Blue Incorporated, a leading organization in Japan, known for its global conferences and events in the field of cybersecurity. With the collective expertise from both countries and distinguished guest presenters from government and industry, I'm really confident that the conference will be really successful and fruitful one, and there's something to learn for everybody. So in conclusion, I hope today's workshop will be just the beginning of many wonderful collaborations between UQ and our partners around the world. And provided that borders open next year, we look forward to welcoming our distinguished guests from Japan in person in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chen. Now we would like to hand over online to Ms. Kana Shinoda, who will give us a partner address. Shinoda-san.
Right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks to a grant from DFAT Australia Japan Foundation. I really do. Thank you. I'm very pleased that we, Blue Inc. and UQ Cyber are able to host this event together today. Today, we have a great group of people from government, academia, and industry from Australia, Japan, and Indonesia to exchange ideas on cybersecurity. This is a first for both sides and a first step towards the future. I'm really looking forward to see more opportunities for exchange between Australia and Japan and other countries in the future, and to the emergence of new corporate relationships. Thank you very much to everyone to make this happen. ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much, Shinoda-san, for your partner address. And we would like to now hand over to Mr. Bruce Miller, AO, Chair of the Australia-Japan Foundation and former ambassador to Japan, for his opening remarks. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much, Professor. And hear me right now? You can hear me, I hope. Anyway, I shall
yes,
continue.
I can hear you. There was a slight,
good.
Yeah, slight delay, but now it's all good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Look, I'm delighted to make some quick opening remarks. I chair the Australia-Japan Foundation board that recommended that we fund this particular activity. I'm no longer in government myself, but I was ambassador to Japan for 6 years. I've had a 42-year association with Japan, and I've also been involved in other roles in government that have intersected with cybersecurity. for example, when I was running the Office of National Assessments in government. The Australia-Japan Foundation funds many activities in a diverse range of areas: culture, sport, science and innovation, and other public diplomacy and grassroots focused programs. We also fund projects to support the government's, the Australian government's policy objectives in its bilateral relationship with Japan. So I'm personally really pleased to see, we were very pleased to see the proposal from UQ for this seminar. It ticks so many boxes in our in what we like to see in applications that come to our board. It's an important area in its own right globally. I was just ordering online Nicole Perloff's book, which is now the Financial Times Business Book of the Year. This is How the World Ends, the Cyber Weapons Arms Race, which I think draws a lot of attention to the issues of cybersecurity. Holding this seminar also fits very well with the intensification of Australia's relationship with Japan in the security domain that we've been stepping up over the last 10 years. It is a focus always in prime ministerial level discussions and statements that come out regularly. And we're also seeing a growing architecture of dialogue between the two governments on this subject. I personally see it a great deal in many aspects of my current professional life, which involve, since I left government, being on the boards of a couple of major financial institutions where cybersecurity often comes before us. And I'm also really delighted to see a wider regional focus with the participation from a distinguished representative from Indonesia. It's good to broaden out the bilateral relationship. So if I could encourage you to keep on pushing the interdisciplinary emphasis of your activities. There are many different ways of thinking about cybersecurity, science, business, geopolitical, social. It's really valuable to bring those diverse ways of thinking about the problems emerging in cybersecurity and talking about them. It's also very important to avoid bureaucratic infighting, tatewari sort of approach to, which is bureaucratic infighting in Japanese, to how cybersecurity is handled. It really has to be handled by all parts of government, but also work across government, the corporate world, and the academic world. So just finally, the Australia-Japan Foundation is really pleased to provide some seed funding, as I call it, for this activity. We hope it will grow into stronger collaboration in this subject, as Professor Vicky Chen mentioned earlier, that this is just the start of a process. So thank you for the time today to speak to you, and I wish you very well for the discussions. Thank you.
Appreciate the insightful speech. And now I would like to invite Ms. Masuda, Deputy Consul General of Japan, Brisbane, to come and give us her address.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me here today to what is an exciting event on such an important topic in today's globalized world. I wish to acknowledge the University of Queensland and Brewing for co-hosting this event, as well as the Australian-Japan Foundation within the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade for the generous funding they provided. I would also like to thank everyone for their efforts in putting the event together. Your hard work is sincerely appreciated, especially given how challenging event on organizing is in the current climate. Over the past 150 years, and especially in the post-war period, Japan and Australia have worked hard to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes, which has resulted in trusted, robust, long-standing friendship upon which relations can further strengthen and diversity well into the future. While the bilateral relationship has been built upon the backbone of trade in the resources and agricultural sectors, our ties have expanded beyond these foundations to education, finance, renewable energy, robotics and innovation, and security, to name just a few. With changing political dynamics in an increasingly globalized world, the need arises for nations to seriously consider new strategies in key areas, and this is especially integral in the field of cybersecurity. We must come up with new ideas and innovate to overcome the new challenges that present themselves. Within this context, Japan and Australia are in a perfect position to play a leading role and cooperate and collaborate on government, institution, and business levels. As part of its cybersecurity diplomacy, the Japanese government has been actively promoting the role of law in cyberspace, the deterrence of cyber attacks, and confidence building measures, as well as supporting capacity building, all in order to ensure the free, fair, and secure cyberspace. As opportunities to build partnership in the cybersecurity field emerge, Japan and Australia can leverage our well-established and solid relationship to make advantage of what is on offer. Our bilateral relations ties rest on shared values, including human rights, trade, and a rule-based order, and commitment to democracy, and shared interest in the security, stability, and prosperity in our region. Today's event not only exemplifies the strong partnership between our two nations, but also reflects the reality that we see a future working closely together in the cyberspace field. I look forward to the event's discussions, which will no doubt provide valuable insights into future developments in cybersecurity. The role of Japan and Australia in this context is one that will further strengthen the bilateral relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masuda-san. Appreciate it. Yeah. Now we will move into the first session of the event with a panel discussion on national security and cyber policies for enhancing regional cybersecurity capabilities, emerging challenges, and key issues. I would like to take a 2 minutes break, if it's okay with the folks online. Very good morning to everyone again, and we're going to start our session 1. And we have our panelists already online, and thank you so much for from dialing in from literally from all over the world. So this is fantastic, and yeah, I would like to first start by saying that in this Zoom session, if you're watching online, we have a simultaneous Japanese translation as well. And you can find it in the, oh no, over here, over here. Yeah, the button should be somewhere here. Right, it is called interpretation. You can choose the English or the Japanese channel. And you can, we'll have simultaneous translation. So please do feel free to use that option. Let me just show. All right. Okay, I'll begin. So I would like to first introduce the speakers that we have today. First up is Ms. Michelle Mosey, who's dialing in from Washington, D.C. Thank you. And she's the Chief Operating Officer, US Lead for AustCyber and the Cyber Growth Network for Australia. I'll begin with an introduction of all the speakers' bios, and then the speakers from Australia, Japan, and Indonesia will give their overview of the policies for the first half an hour. And then on the second half an hour, we'll start a Q&A session. Okay, so Michelle focused on growing Australian cybersecurity startups and assisting to launch Australian businesses globally. Her career has focused on national security elements in intelligence and security with a strong focus on emerging technology, cybersecurity, information policy, and multinational relationships. During 2018 to 2020, she was the head of strategic partnerships and engagement North America with me, and the global head of academy for with me, working with US military veterans to train in high-tech careers. And Michelle joined the ANU, Australian National University, in 2017 as a senior advisor cybersecurity and worked in the establishment of the ANU Cyber Institute. And Michelle has also developed has led development programs focused on talent strategies for cyber professionals, working closely with Australian universities to support STEM development and intern opportunities. And Michelle is also a personal friend of mine because we met each other on many occasions in diplomatic circles and in talent development circles many years ago. So it's great to have her as one of our speakers today, sharing her wealth of experience. Then next up, we have Ms. Mihoko Matsubara, panel speaker for Japan. She's the Chief Cybersecurity Strategist for NTT Corporation in Japan. Mihoko Matsubara is also responsible for cybersecurity thought leadership in the company. She's a very prominent author and speaker as well. I've seen some of her books online as well. And she served at the Japanese Ministry of Defense before her MA at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies on Fulbright scholarship. Prior to joining NTT, she worked as the Vice President and Public Sector Chief Security Officer for Asia Pacific at Palo Alto Networks. She served on the Japanese government's Cybersecurity R&D Policy Committee between 2014 and 2018. She's an adjunct fellow at the Pacific Forum Honolulu and associate fellow of the Henry Jackson Society in London. She published a cybersecurity book in Japanese from the Shinchosa Publishing Co. Limited in 2019, which won an award by the Okawa Foundation for Information and Telecommunications in JFY 2020. Next up, we have Dr. Wibawanto Nugroho Widodo. He's a panel speaker for Indonesia, and he's the Vice President Operational Pembina Harian, Democracy and Integrity for Peace Institute, Indonesia. So Pak Wibawanto is an expert in politics, national security, defense, strategy, and leadership. He has represented the Republic of Indonesia at the US Army Global Symposium on Challenge of the Future Joint Operational Environment, JOE, and the US National Defense University Global Alumni Quadrennial Reunion and International Security Symposium hosted in 2017 by the US Department of Defense. So Pak Wibawanto is also has also been a consultant for the World Bank Group, a lecturer at the Indonesian National Defense University, Unhan, in the field of cyber and asymmetric warfare. Has appeared as a speaker for the Indonesian National Resilience Institute, Lemhanas, the Vice Chairman of the National Defense and Security at the Indonesian National Resilience Institute Alumni Association Strategic Center, IKALSC, and is a non-resident senior fellow at the Westminster Institute in Washington. And Dr. Widodo also lectures at Pelita Harapan University in the field of global political leadership. So let's put our hands together to welcome them all. Thank you. And I'd like to hand over the control and the share screen feature to Michelle, who will start the first overview, followed by Mihoko and Wibawanto. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. everyone bear with me as I share screen and pull up my presentation. Well, firstly, everyone, I would like to welcome you here at this awesome event between the University of Queensland and Japan, and certainly thank my fellow panelists for being on this discussion. But in particular, thank you to Professor Ryan Koh and Kana in particular, who have done a lot of work to coordinate everyone from across the globe to come to you in Queensland today. It is actually quite difficult to line up times with me. I'm on the east coast of the US in Washington, DC, and I know my fellow panelists there in Japan. It's difficult to align timeframes. So thank you to the team for that. I'd like to talk to you today around AustCyber and who we are and what we do. The slide that you see up in front of you now is AustCyber's strategic objectives. So who are we? We are actually a publicly funded private entity that commenced in January of 2017. And what you see up on the slide there is our mission and the 3 key objectives to grow Australia's cybersecurity sector. So the first one, grow that cybersecurity ecosystem on a domestic level. The second one is to build on the first objective and then export that cybersecurity capability to the world. And that involves a whole lot of work around everything from startup to pitching, to investing, to business development plans, and really helping those companies make their mark and set themselves up for success before they launch on the global market. Third one is make Australia the leading centre for cyber education. AustCyber has done a lot of work in this space with everything from primary school through to high school and university education, delivering training to teachers and also students. Through that program, we have delivered a nationally recognised curriculum for a cybersecurity certificate 4 and an advanced diploma, and we're actually about to launch into an undergraduate degree, working again with the University of Queensland to deliver that for Australia. Our funding comes from federal government grants. We were funded for 5 years under the program. And that also includes a $15 million projects fund where we work with cybersecurity startups to help them accelerate their ideas into the market that helps position themselves with their capability. We also link them into procurement channels, and this has actually proved quite successful for us. Initially, when AustCyber started 5 years ago, we had around 30 to 40 cybersecurity companies in Australia. Today, we sit at almost 400 that have gotten on board with the AustCyber program and taken advantage of the learnings and the opportunities and the projects funding and grants that we have to actually help them accelerate and grow their business. We, of course, work with a lot of educational institutions and research institutions as well. Just to give you a bit of an idea, let me get rid of that, the goalposts about what the Australian ecosystem is like. We spend around $4 billion a year with an additional $1.3 billion over the next 10 years on cybersecurity alone. At the moment, we employ around 20,500 people in a range of jobs, not just cybersecurity specific. We know, and particularly this has become, quite evident through COVID, is that the sector size has the potential to triple in the coming years. with revenues, so if you're looking to get into the business, going from over 2 billion to around 6 billion by 2026. Australia has an excellent reputation in cybersecurity, as does Japan and many of our other close allies, but we particularly fare well in policies that support cybersecurity, allowing that government data to be openly available to the public. And whilst still ensuring the PII requirements are met. Australia has done a lot of work in this space, particularly at the international level, through DFAT and other Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and then also AustTrade, providing our insight and input into some of the challenges and advantages around those policies. Just a couple of notes on there around our cyber maturity. We fare fairly well. We're the second highest in the Indo-Pacific. And in terms of supporting a free and open internet, we're the 7th most committed cybersecurity company according to the Global Cybersecurity Index. Some additional notes on the Australia's cybersecurity strategy. This is the second cybersecurity strategy that has been released in Australia, and we committed to invest $1.67 billion over the next 10 years, building on the initial investment from the 2016 cybersecurity strategy. Now, that additional 1.67 billion has been focused on particular areas, as you can see from the dot points on the slide, which is really focused around defending critical infrastructure. Australia has recently gone from reassessing what we determined critical infrastructure to be, to actually expanding that into health, finance, fuel, and supply chains, because I think if we've learned anything through the period of COVID, is that all of these areas are particularly susceptible to cyber crime and threat. We'll also be investing in particular ways to investigate and shut down that cyber crime, and leading that through to defences for government networks and data. We have the Joint Cybersecurity Centre Partnership Program, which works very, very closely with industry and academia to access new research and ideas to help support those underlying areas of defending Australia's national interests and the critical infrastructure components. We'll also be providing additional advice for small to medium enterprises to increase that cyber resilience. Australia has very much taken the approach that a rising tide lifts all boats. So there are programs that have been developed to help small to medium businesses understand what it means to be working in a cyber domain and the basic cybersecurity hygiene activities that they need to take notice of and implement if they can. Of course, there's always additional guidance and policies coming out through the Internet of Things, readily available and quite often the entry point for a lot of threats and those looking to divert resources and otherwise. And again, the 24/7 cybersecurity advice and that additional just improved overall community awareness of cybersecurity threats. Because again, it's not just about businesses and it's not just about individuals, it's actually about Australia as a nation and keeping them very, very focused and aware of what tools are available for them in the marketplace to help secure their safety and security online. The next couple of slides are just a bit of an overview around what has been spent on cybersecurity and giving that as a comparison around the value of Australia's market. We know that workers are at a critical point within businesses because it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we become aware of threats, the more workers we need. So then that puts additional impost on educational institutions to ensure they're putting the right skills into the market to allow those businesses to implement cybersecurity programs to protect themselves. And overall, that actually adds to the national security, the national economic security of Australia. Again, the outlook for 2024, additional money going into the revenue generated through Australia's cybersecurity ideas, more jobs coming online as more businesses recognise the awareness, they recognise the need for skills in their business. Again, the actions for sustained growth, just a bit of an overview about what we actually do in terms of supporting the digitised economy, ensuring that the digital growth that we are experiencing in Australia supports that productivity and trust across the economy, whether you're dealing in a supply chain, whether you're dealing with banking and finance, whether you're exchanging personal health information with your medical healthcare provider. Also then leading into export opportunities and being able to then incentivize that innovation and capital flows to help grow the market. And then, you know, moving Australia into improving that market maturity and access. And of course, all underpinned again by the skills required for the future workforce. I should also mention these slides will be readily available through the UQ team if you do want to read in any more detail. Australia at the moment, you know, we've got 350 on the slide. We're actually close to 400, but AustCyber has actually set itself up around Australia with a number of what we call nodes. And those AustCyber nodes operate across every state and territory in Australia, and they support startups to help them build their business, help gain access to investors, and then also help them, I guess, negotiate deals with state governments and also gain access to procurement channels. Now, that has been grown over a 5-year period. And to give you a bit of an idea, for every dollar that AustCyber contributes to a node, we are seeing a 10-fold plus return in benefit for each of the states and the businesses that are within them. Again, this is just, you know, a further expansion on the detail and giving you some more data around each of the states for that AustCyber actually has nodes in. Now, I know we were going to talk specifically about some of the challenges, and like everyone, I think we're going to raise the security skills shortage in Australia. We have seen it continually grow over the last 10 years. COVID has raised the awareness even more across businesses, because we've essentially had to take a workforce that was going to the office every day and transition them into a virtual environment, which actually has required a large number of devices and security mechanisms to be put in place, not only on laptops, but mobile devices as well. And to have people bring those into their homes and be aware of what's required. So of course, that has had a subsequent impact on the number of workers in Australia, not just to provision security devices, but then also look at the threat surface about how they're reporting and what is being attacked. Because if anything has been evident through COVID, there has been a huge number of the rise in threats and tapping of networks as more and more people have moved online across the world. Again, we are looking at many, many ways about how to increase the the aperture of what we look at in terms of cybersecurity, because no longer is it just a technical job. We actually require people who can give risk advice, they can give business advice, they can actually look at and think about cyber in a different way, in addition to the technical areas. So we are looking at individuals who may have been transitioning out of a particular job because they've actually been affected by the digital economy. So what kind of transferable skills do they actually have? And we're using everything from personality profiles through to skill assessments to look at where people need to fill the gaps in order to transition into a successful cybersecurity career. Again, how do you attract the talent into the market? And Ryan, Professor Koh would be very, very aware of this. For many, many years, those who came into a cybersecurity career were in the engineering line or in the IT line, and they self-selected in. But what we've found out over, probably the last 5 to 7 years is that we actually require people with different talents. Problem solvers, people who are great networkers, people who are great at communication, people who understand the business and can translate between the technical and the business needs. So that part is incredibly important. And of course, because of the need and the increasing need, it's about retraining at speed. We can't afford to wait 4 years, wait 5 years for this talent to come into the market. So if you look at the transferable skills and how do we attract talent, how do we bring that together and then retrain at speed through micro-credentialing, through certification, through on-the-job experience, and get people into the workforce, we think that is actually, one of the key ways of actually solving the problem that we have with cybersecurity. I will end it there so I have plenty of time to share with my colleagues.
Apologies, I was on mute. Thank you, Michelle. I would like now to hand over to Mihoko Matsubara for her sharing. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So thank you, Michelle, for your wonderful presentations to overview what's happening in Australia in terms of cybersecurity. So now I'd like to broaden the scope a little bit to cover challenges and also opportunities in the Indo-Pacific region. So we talk a lot about cyber attacks these days, but we do not usually talk about what kind of damages those cyber attacks are causing to us. So I'd like to give you a specific number. So did you know that 7% of global GDP was lost due to cybercrime back in 2020? 7%. It is even larger than one country's GDP. And it is expected to grow in the future if we do not do anything about it. And please note that it is only about cybercrime activities. We do not count cyber espionage or election interference by state-sponsored actors. So if we include those numbers, the total damages caused by cyber attacks will be even larger. So think about it. So we started to hear a lot more about cyber attacks during the pandemic. So we wonder why. Because we had to change and we are forced to change our behavior and the lifestyle during the pandemic. We cannot go out, we cannot even see our family or friends in person. So naturally we spend more time online, and it pushed up the ratio to click phishing or spear phishing emails. So the ratio was actually less than 5% before the pandemic, but But you know what? Right after the pandemic started, we started to be very curious and concerned about what's happening in the pandemic. So the ratio skyrocketed to over 40%. So we are getting more vulnerable to cyber attacks. And we are now using the wider variety of cybersecurity tools or IT tools, including WebEx or Zoom. Now we are using to connect to each other. And yet, unfortunately, not always we are very aware of cybersecurity best practices. And in fact, only 43% of global remote workers have received remote working focused cybersecurity training. So it is natural that the Trend Micro found out very alarming statistics that only 20% of remote workers would never use their work laptop for personal ends, such as online shopping. I'm sure that you do not do that, but 38% of global remote workers have uploaded their corporate data to non-work applications. So if they do that, we cannot do cybersecurity. So we really need to raise cybersecurity awareness. And some of the cybercrime activities are really devastating. For example, ransomware attacks. We hear a lot about it. And ransomware attacks actually have been out there over the last 30 years. And it traditionally encrypt data or take data and business continuity as the hostage and demand a ransom in return to release your precious data. However, about 2 years ago, they became more aggressive and they started to resort to more vicious activities called double or triple extortion. So not only to encrypt your business-related precious data, but also they steal their corporate data and leak it online or on the dark web, or even email victims' customers and business partners to pressure them, saying that, hey, we actually got your personal data. So to protect your own privacy, you may want to reach out to the victim companies and pressure them to pay a ransom. So in that way, ransomware attackers are making money a lot more during the pandemic. And as I said, because we are now more reliant on IT assets during the pandemic, and it is getting harder for us to protect all of the increasing number of IT tools, such as remote desktop protocols or VPN. And the ransomware attackers are not only using spear phishing or phishing emails, but also attacking those vulnerabilities in our remote working IT environment. And I found an intriguing difference in terms of ransomware attack trend in Japan and Australia. So in Australia, not always, but usually ransomware attackers tend to attack the headquarters in Australia. On the other hand, against Japanese companies, ransomware attackers tend to attack a subsidiary of Japanese companies outside Japan, for example, in the United States or in Europe or in the UK. Why? Because due to the declining birth ratio, the Japanese companies have been heavily investing in merger and acquisitions and also the global market. And it is getting more challenging for Japanese companies to have a good grasp of IT governance and of course, cybersecurity. So that is why the ransomware attackers tend to attack subsidiaries outside Japan. So, and I also would like to share some alarming trend of ransomware attacks. So of course, healthcare services are always important and will be always important. However, it is getting even more crucial during the pandemic to make sure to have a good access to them 24/7 basis. However, what would happen if a ransomware attack hit a hospital? Then they are forced to suspend their medical treatments to their patients because now they have no visibility to the database on the patients. So that is now happening during the pandemic. And unfortunately, the healthcare institutions are not very proactive to invest in cybersecurity traditionally. And healthcare institutions tend to spend only 3 to 4% of their IT budget on cybersecurity, whereas the ratio is 6 to 14% in the financial sector. So that is why the two American cybersecurity companies, Medicaid and CrowdStrike, found out last month that 82% of health systems experienced some form of IoT cyber attacks, and 34% of them are ransomware attacks. So now we have to really raise cybersecurity awareness among remote workers, but also to protect critical infrastructure sectors, as Michelle mentioned, especially the healthcare institutions. And NTT Limited found that actually the cybersecurity maturity level of the healthcare sector is the lowest among all the critical infrastructure sectors. So now you see that healthcare institutions really need to step up their efforts for cybersecurity. So, and as I saw, the world has faced a devastating impact by various cyber attacks, including ransomware attacks. So the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympic and the Paralympic Games had faced unprecedented challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm sure that during the following sessions, Mr. Akira Saka would share his wonderful presentation, as always he does, and to share his journey to how he and his team protected Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games. But I'd like to say that Japan was fortunate to have some advantages because Japan was able to host the 2019 G20 Osaka Summit and the Rugby World Cup to test our cybersecurity capabilities to prepare for this event and also to be able to enhance our national cybersecurity capabilities. And since Brisbane is selected to host 2032 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games, so I am sure that Australia will also have a wonderful journey to enhance our cybersecurity capabilities. And to prepare for Tokyo 2020, we have to have a good technology, but we also have to raise cybersecurity awareness, and we also have to have a good people, as Michelle said during her presentations. So Japanese companies also started to step up our efforts. And the Japanese major critical infrastructure companies, specifically NTT, NEC, and Hitachi, came up this framework, cross-sector forums to define what cybersecurity professionals are and what kind of missions they are expected to achieve, and to create a good ecosystem to educate, hire, train, and retain cybersecurity professionals. Because even though the cybersecurity professional is a very simple word, it can mean anything. It can be help desk, it can be auditor, it can be a cybersecurity policy person like Michelle, or it can be chief information security officer. And each of them is required to have a totally different skill sets at a different level of understanding. So that is why you have to have a good definitions. What kind of people are you exactly talking about, and what kind of people you need to have at critical infrastructure companies? So that's what the Japanese cross-sector forum did. And the cross-sector forum started to share their findings and definitions based upon the NIST cybersecurity framework as a global common language to shape the Japanese cybersecurity strategy, but also to some of the members and the host university cybersecurity courses to cultivate next generation cybersecurity professionals. And they are invited to multiple NIST cybersecurity conferences in the United States to share their unique applications of the NIST cybersecurity framework. And also to do that, international collaborations are crucial. So that is why the Japanese government proactively are doing cyber exercises and cyber security events with various global partners, including the United States and also Europe. So the Japanese Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry and Information Technology and Promotion Agency hosted a cyber exercise, not only with the United States, but also with ASEAN, Bangladesh, India, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and Taiwan this year. And also they did the first Japan, Europe, United States cybersecurity seminar this year for the free and open Indo-Pacific. And the Japanese self-defense forces for the first time officially and free participated in the NATO cyber exercise locked seals early this year. And the NATO CCDCOE or NATO's Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence always test a scenario on the massive cyber attacks on the different types of critical infrastructure in a scenario-based NATO member country. So to do that, of course, you have to bring in the government in the NATO state, but also you have to bring together the expertise from critical infrastructure companies. So public-private partnerships is crucial. So that is why I am so proud as a Japanese citizen and also another former member of the Ministry of Defense. I am so pleased and proud to see that the Japanese government not only decided to bring in the Ministry of Defense and self-defense forces, of course, for the NATO-based cyber exercise, but also the civilian agencies like MISC, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, but also the critical infrastructure companies. And they teamed up with the United States in the Pacific Command in Hawaii. So this was the virtual cyber exercise and everybody participated online. So the time difference was enormous between Tokyo, Europe, and Hawaii, but they decided to do that. And this also underlines the strong and even stronger alliance between Japan and the United States. And because the United States decided to send Indo-Pacific Command from Hawaii, not from the command from Europe, it showcases that how the two allies considers the importance of the free and open Indo-Pacific and to enhance cybersecurity for that. So what's next? So obviously we've been facing enormous threats by various types of cyber attacks, but we've been fighting a good fight. We are able to have a successful Tokyo 2020 based upon lots of cyber exercises and next generation cybersecurity talent cultivations, and lots of bilateral and multilateral cybersecurity partnerships, including government to government, but also public-private partnerships. And then there have been also the military exercises started to cover not only air, land, and ocean, but also space and cyber domains. So Japan and the United States, but also Japan and Australia started to deepen our partnerships in terms of trade, economy, but also defense deeper and deeper over the last few years. And all of them are reliant on information technologies. So it is natural for them to include cybersecurity to every single aspect of our deeper partnerships between Japan and Australia. And I am sure that we will have more opportunities to collaborate to make sure the success of the future Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games in Australia in 11 years. So I really look forward to that. And thank you so much. And I really look forward to having your questions.
Thank you, Mihoko-san. now we would like to hand over to Pak Wibawanto.
Hello, yes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the previous presentations. And then I'm going to share based on my personal assessments on what the Indonesian governments and the wider cyber community have been doing for the last 4 years, specifically from 2017 until 2021 until today, since the establishments of the cyber and the National Cyber and the Crypto Agency in 2017. That marks the changing perspective of how important the cyberspace for protecting and advancing Indonesia's national interest. And then, as we know, the cyber needs the holistic and strategic thinking to make that happen. Since this is the bottom-up approach where the governments will be involved in order to facilitate the growing cyber power of the nations as a whole. Next slide. So basically, I will have a general overview of the 3 aspects, divided into 3 aspects. First is a strategic, the expectations of the president as he laid out his visions in 2019. And second one is the awareness of the policymakers and also a wider society about the importance of the cyberspace as the 5th domains to protect and advance the national interest. And the third one is the urgency of the national cyber strategy, in this case, the cybersecurity strategy. Next slide. So in 2019, President Joko Widodo laid out his visions for the first time about the importance of the informations and the cyberspace, and then how we should, as the nations, treat informations and the cyberspace as the potential source of the wealth of the nations, basically. This is the official remarks delivered by him at the same time in the point of the appointment of the new head of the cyber and the state cyber and the crypto agency. So the point here is we can say that for Indonesia, I see that the strategic awareness just being started in 2019 when the presidents laid out the visions, and it will take time in a democratic society to be coherent, to solidify the various perspectives of how they should, various actors should see the dynamics and then the importance of the cyberspace, because its agency, its actors in the quad helix, in the governments, in industry, in academics, and also in the cyber community, wider cyber community. I can say that they have their own perspective on the cyberspace and how they should develop the cyber power, and that this various perspectives need to be solidified by the governments. As we know, we are focusing on first, we're not only becoming the the user of the cyberspace, but we have to know how to use the cyberspace to protect and to advance national interest and to create the favorable strategic environments for all the national instruments of power, and then how the cyber what happened in the cyberspace government and also the nations as a whole have the significant capacity to influence what happened in the other domains, land, sea, space, and also air, not in the theoretical realm, but also in the practical realms. And then we start seeing, and then we, from the agency, also start educating the nations, and that the cyberspace is the key domain for Indonesia to gain strategic advantage in the global cooperations and also competitions. not only in ASEAN, not only in Indo-Pacific, but also in the international realm. By focusing on the 5 aspects, as we know, legal, what we are doing in legal aspect, what we're doing in the technical aspect, what we are doing in the capacity building, what we are doing in the organizational building, and what we are doing in international operations. So next slide. And then since 2017, the Indonesian Armed Forces, so basically 2017, the cyber and the crypto agency was established. And then the Indonesian Armed Forces headquarters also established its own cyber command, cyber, what we call it is a Satuan Cyber TNI, or the Cyber Task Force of Indonesian's military force. But only recently in 2020, the current commander of TNI, General Andika, when he was the Army Chief of Staff, he started thinking really seriously about the importance of the cyber, and then he set up a new agency, a new unit. It's called the Indonesian Army Center for Cyber and Crypto, and then it's kind of they make it into like a special forces unit, specially equipped, specially trained, and then assigned with a special task. So this is such a big mission for Indonesian Army was establishing that in 2020 in accordance with what the cyber and the National Cyber and Crypto Agency was working hard to educate the society about the importance of the cyberspace. And then and at the time some policymakers also try to solidify their difference about the cyberspace, and they start supporting by supporting the policy of it. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hello. Yeah. So such a, and then in terms of the capacity building, hello. Yeah. Sorry. In terms of the legal, so I have to be honest that we still have I can say that we don't have the national cybersecurity and resilience bills being passed into the act. That's our concern. And the second one is since 2020, we're trying to get the national cybersecurity strategy being signed off by the president as the presidential directive. But we're still waiting for the document to be signed off. That's the second documents that are still missing, the second documents. And then the third document is information infrastructure, what is called is Undang-Undang Keamanan Information Infrastructure Security. So as a presidential directive, but we're still waiting on it to be signed off. And also the National Cyber Crisis Management being integrated under the National Cybersecurity Strategy. But we're still waiting for the document to be signed off. So we're still waiting for strategic documents to be signed off by the government, by the presidents, for the cyber, and then as for the cybersecurity and resilience bill to be passed on into act. We have to wait until the parliaments give the approval of it. But for national cybersecurity strategy, for the protections of the critical infrastructures and also information infrastructure protections to be signed off by the president. We're still waiting on it, and then that's our concerns. In terms of the technical aspects, for the last 2 years, we've been very fast in developing the CSIRT and CERT capacities in the private sectors and also in the government sectors by having them connected with the National Cybersecurity Operations Command in the national in Cybersecurity and Crypto Agency, BSSN. And then now Indonesia is also at the crossroad for the National Cyber Security and Crypto Agency. We are trying to learn from the what the other countries are doing in terms of organizational building and capacity building, right? Because at least now BSSN is responsible for protecting all the government information security. So for all the security matters relating to the government information is still falls under the responsibility of the BSSN, including the military. But moving forward, we're still waiting. We are at the crossroad. We are going to adopt like GCHQ models in UK, when we have a British Minister of Foreign Affairs came to cyber agencies 2 weeks ago to talk about many things, or we are going to adopt like a US system where military will be taking care of their own, and then the Homeland Security Department through CISA will be taking care of their own. But we're trying to align, like the current Armed Forces Commander. He emphasized on he prioritized not only the technological informations of the Indonesia's military platforms, but also the cyber platform of the weapon system. That's also important. And then next slide, as we know that there are 3 layers that Indonesia are still keeping up to build the 3 layers of our cybersecurity. The first layer, the second layer. For the second layer, we're trying to instigate. We try to stimulate the industrial sectors to be more active in the research for starting up company, to support starting up company to start developing the software, while at the same time we are still working with the foreign counterparts for the availability of the software, the second layer. For the third layer, we are also working hard now to build the technical skills of the Indonesian people interested in the cybersecurity through many ways, including by having the international cooperations. So next slide. So based on our current draft while we are waiting for the cybersecurity strategy to be signed off with the president, we are dividing the cyber trends for the next 10 years at least into 3: information control, cyber espionage, and cyber sabotage. And we are dividing clearly in our currently drafted national cybersecurity strategy as a technical and the social attacks, and technical and the social threats, and technical and social attacks. So we're not only talking about the technical, but we are also talking about the social, and the importance of the social layers in the Indonesian paradigm of securing the cyberspace. And then I think the government is also has the solid understanding that there is no such thing of the full sovereignty in the cyberspace. It is the nation state that has the sovereignty, not the cyberspace. But how we can use the cyberspace for the best interest for the nation's interest, for the best interest of the nations, while at the same time, I think we are adopting Indonesia adopting open system of the cyberspace. It's not the closed system of the cyberspace, Professor. So next slide. Yeah, so this is actually the summary of Indonesians currently drafted to be wait off while we are waiting for the document to be signed off. So basically, the mission is very clear. It's to secure the cyberspace and national information and systems. And then the three missions is to economic, and the second is the defense. The fourth one is the international relations. And we are to be we're doing it in the total defense approach, involving all the quad helix, and we have a working areas, 7 working areas. Next slide. Yeah, so basically the working area, I think this is the old slide. So basically there are 7 working areas. Out of 7 working areas, there are 33 variables, and for the action plans to be done by the quad helix, there are 49 variables to be implemented until 2024. So basically, this is the glance of our currently drafted national security strategy, and then we will have a strategy to be overseen and to be overseen by the committee, like a national committee under coordinating minister of political, legal and security affairs, where the head of the national cyber and crypto agency as the chief operational leader of the execution of the strategy, by involving all agencies in the governments and also other counterparts in other quad helix. Next slide. So that's my presentations, and then thank you for the disruptions and also for the disconnected, and then when I lost my voice before because of the connection and so on here in Jakarta. So I'm looking forward for having a discussion and then the input from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Wibawanto. Very good overview, and learn about the dimensions, the 49 dimensions, and other things that usually we don't really consider. We usually look at it from a one-dimensional point of view or 2-dimensional point of view. So I'd like to move into very quickly into part 2, and I'm conscious that we are hitting a bit on the time side. So I would like to just ask a quick question to the panelists. Starting with so the guide is that maybe a 2-minute answer from each panelist. For Japan, for Mihoko, I would like to ask you a question. In this globalized market, countries still have to deal with their own capabilities. So how would the industry, because you're representing NTT and the industry sector, contribute to national or critical infrastructure protection?
Thank you. So because most of the critical infrastructure companies such as healthcare institutions, energies or electricity or water are owned and run and operated by private companies. So it is crucial for private companies, including critical infrastructure companies, to enhance their own cybersecurity capabilities, to protect themselves, and also to raise awareness for their employees. But it's not enough, because cyber attacks are borderless. So that is why the information sharing of cyber attacks and cybersecurity best practices are so important than ever, between allies and between different sectors, and also between Japan and Australia, because now our trade and defense and economic partnerships are deeper and larger than ever. So to protect our economy and national security also means that we have to provide cybersecurity for each other. And it is our responsibility for the government, but also the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have to work across sectors, and I like the idea of the cross-sector forum. That's a good idea for everyone to follow. Now, I'd like to move to Indonesia and Australia, maybe starting with Australia, for both, for the same question. So, you know, where we have this increasingly globalized economy, but also an increasing drive towards sovereignty or sovereign cyber capabilities across many countries. So may I know your thoughts and your observations about this? And what does this mean for policymakers, researchers, and practitioners? Starting with Michelle and then followed by Pak Wibawanto.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That's actually a very, very interesting question because, as you know, internationally, there are many governments having conversations around what is defined as sovereign requirements for specific information. There will always be certain amounts of information that will need to be kept sovereign, but does that cut other very close partners out of the market? I don't believe so. I believe that countries who work very closely together, who have very strong partnerships and alliances, can actually provide that level of assurance and surety around where information is stored, who has access to it, the exchanges, and the data and audit trails along there. Because I do believe that if countries look completely to just sovereign providers, they are actually missing out on a huge amount of capability that is out there with their very close partnerships. And, you know, AustCyber very much takes the position that partnerships are the way to go. You really can't do anything by yourself. So having those trusted partnerships, those trusted alliances across everything in terms of cybersecurity, threat and intelligence sharing, as Mihoko referred to, that's where the strength comes in partnerships, and particularly when it comes down to the question of sovereignty. I think we should take the approach that sovereignty should be the smaller component rather than the larger component, because together we are actually much stronger because we bring a lot of different capabilities, insights, and expertise to the table. Thank you.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Pak Wibawanto, do you have any thoughts about that? Sovereignty,
yeah,
globalization.
Yeah, it's very quick for me. So I agree with Michelle just explains that the importance is for Indonesia. We open cyber policy, and then the importance is of how the Indonesian governments can be present and then secure the economic interests of the whole nations in the cyberspace. But at the same time, we understand that the cyberspace is like a global common. There is no such thing of the sovereignty in the cyberspace. Nation states has this sovereignty, but not the cyberspace itself. But and then we try to be supportive toward economic actors. Like when we are talking about economy, it means that the economic Indonesian citizens as the economic actors, and then access to natural resources, access to financial resources at the global level, and access to the market at the global level. And then how Indonesian government should present directly or and indirectly by working together with the other quad helix to be supportive toward the economic, the advancement of the economic interest, not only governments but also the private sectors.
Yeah, thank you.
That's basically the logic, Professor. Yeah. So basically, we don't have a problem with that, but we know that we should be responsible to protect the citizens and the economic activities of the citizens as a government responsibility for them. So basically, that's this is what I can share.
Thank you. Yeah. So now I'll open up to the audience here who have been patiently waiting for the questions session. If I may invite you to come forward closer to the mic just to ask your question, that'll be great. Yes. Introduce yourself and then ask a question.
Hey, so I'm Robert. I'm a former, just finished cybersecurity master's student here at EQ. And I had a sort of follow-up question for Michelle about the sovereignty aspects of cybersecurity. And I was wondering if you're aware of there's a concept of sovereignty as responsibility, specifically out of like the responsibility to protect movement within human rights. And if there might be some sort of applicability of that concept of sovereignty as responsibility of states towards actions like state-sponsored cyber attacks, for instance, with like the attacks, or the alleged attacks, from Russia towards Ukraine, and if something like that might merit a international response, or if there might be something moving forward in policy surrounding sovereignty and cyber attacks.
Yeah, great question, Robert. And frankly, if I had the answer to that, I'd probably be the Prime Minister. However, look, I think when it comes to, look, let's go back to basics, and we talk about a free and open internet, and we talk about individuals having the right to share whatever information they'd like online in a safe environment. When it brings into question, some of the things that is going on between Russia and Ukraine, and how do you then deal with sovereignty issues over that? It's a very, very complex space. And if you've done any reading at all, or you're sort of aware of, some of the challenges that we've had, even just around the discussions of a free and open internet, you would be aware of the challenges that we're currently facing right now with internet connectivity and access in countries like China and in other, countries like North Korea. There are a number of countries who sign up to abide by those rules, and there are other countries who don't. And it's a very difficult question, and I actually don't have an answer for you. It's I hate to liken it to the UN. The UN started off in a great place with great ideals about how to manage major international conflicts working together in partnerships. And cybersecurity is in somewhat a bit of a similar position. People who kind of agree, but then they don't. And when push comes to shove, it's very difficult to come to an answer around what they will and what they won't allow. And that is why the Five Eyes countries, in partnership with, countries like Japan and Indonesia, are having discussions around what will we sign up to in terms of a safe cybersecurity space online. So I don't think I've really answered your question. I think I've probably posed a few more, and next time I'm in Australia, I'm very happy to have a discussion with you about it. But it's I actually don't think I can answer it, because the complexities around the political decisions, the sign up, who's involved, and everything else, it is very difficult. I think I could probably paint a desirable picture, but in reality, it is very, very different because of the contextual situations that sort of sit around the outside of it.
That's the Michelle, that's the quality of our Master of Cybersecurity graduates. So they're all coming into the workforce now. So I'm conscious of the time, so I want to go around the panel and just ask if you have any final comments to make. So maybe I'll start with Indonesia, Japan, and Australia. So Wibawanto.
Yeah, so very quick, thank you, Professor Ryan. So basically, we are working hard now to build the 5 aspects of legal, technical aspects, capacity building, organizational building, and international operations. And the National Cybersecurity Agency is highly expected to deliver what the nation expects, but we are still, struggling to deal with, like Michelle said, that complexity of Indonesian politics. That we have to, navigate around. Not only, we know the problem, we know the solutions. That's very clear. But we have to work out how to deal with the politics of bureaucracy and then the wider political struggles in the nations, involving multi-parties. And then for a cybersecurity agency is also responsible for protecting 11 strategic sectors, military and non-military, and also the protection of the national critical infrastructures. And then we are supporting the open and free and open cyberspace, and the governments here not as the boss or not as the command of everything, but we're trying to become the role model for other colleagues. For we're working together to build up the national cyber power that we expected, and then we expect that the cyberspace can be the strategic domain for Indonesia to protect and advance their interests, and also to working along with other countries based on the constructivist values. How do we build up the cyber power? But at the same time, we realize that we have to do our internal balancing. That we have to speed up in developing our own cyber capability in 3 aspects, in 3 layers: physical, logical, and also social layers. So, and then we're still waiting for many documents, strategic documents to be signed off. And then we expect that before 2024, all at least 70% of the expected documents to be signed off. 2024, we will have the president elections. That's from my side.
Thank you. Yeah, all the best with the documents as well. Mihoko?
Sure. So I'd like to thank everyone who participated in this workshop, because nowadays every one of us as an IT user and also a cybersecurity user, whether you realize it or not. So you are sparing your precious time over the last 1 hour or so to understand better about cyber threats, but also cybersecurity best practices. So it means a lot to the cybersecurity communities to enhance our lifestyle and national security and also business operations. And it also deepen and widen our Japan-Australia cybersecurity collaborations. And if we have one common goal together to enhance our bilateral cybersecurity collaboration, then it will make us stronger. And nowadays, we have also another great common goal to make sure the Brisbane Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games successful. And I really look forward to hearing the next sessions to make us stronger in terms of cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mihoko. Michelle?
Thank you. Wonderful, comments from Wibawanto and Mihoko. I think I congratulate you all for attending this session today, because not only have you been exposed to 3 very different perspectives and insights into how we look at cybersecurity, but it should also reaffirm to you that the diversity of opportunities, the diversity of threats, and the diversity of thinking and individuals required in cybersecurity is huge. There are lots of opportunities, there are lots of gaps. And I challenge you all to take away the information that you've heard today, and think about it as you move forward and you go back into your new careers or your jobs. These are the things that, you know, certainly occupy a lot of my mind space, and I'm sure of my other panelists' mind spaces as well. There are people all over the world thinking about these problems, and it's through thinking about these, communicating and being in partnership and talking through some of these challenges is that we'll find our way through. Information and power comes through knowledge sharing, not actually just driving home sort of those personal goals. So I leave you with that. And again, a big thanks to Ryan at the team and the team at UQ. Thank you. It's been a great session, and look forward to any other questions that you send through to myself, and very happy to connect with you all. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.